big topic, and it's a very misunderstood topic. It can be there's a variety of opinions that people have when it comes to weight loss, that's for sure. But understanding the truth about weight loss and how to actually get weight off and keep it off in a healthy manner is really what you want to learn. So that's the idea behind tonight's coaching webinar. Is Michelle has a history in understanding health and weight loss, and she's helped a lot of people lose weight as well. And she herself has had a journey from her childhood understanding losing weight, so she's the perfect person to jump on a coaching webinar, which we put on free as a service to our customers of Life Foods. We're continually putting on just these events on various different topics that our customers request. So if you've got a topic you'd like us to get a guest presenter to come along and do, please let us know on the Facebook page. Just comment on the Facebook page and just let us know a topic that you'd like us to research, and we'll go ahead and try and get someone to come on and do the teaching on it. All of these webinars that we do record them, and they are placed on the Facebook page and on our blog when we replay them, so you can catch the replays then. By joining us on the live events, though, you can actually ask questions, interact, so we'll get to questions at the end of the event after Michelle has taken us through her presentation on weight loss and her take on it and her journey. Then we'll get questions. So if you've got questions, feel free to ask. You should notice on the right-hand side of your screen a little panel that comes off the side, and there's a chat or a question box that you can type in there. If you go ahead and type into that, then we can see that question, and we'll get to the questions and read those out live, and Michelle will do her best to answer those for you. So thank you for joining us on this evening's webinar. It's a pleasure to have you as our valued customers and subscribers of Life Foods. We very much appreciate you, and hopefully we can help pass on some education on the topic of weight loss that will help you understand it more. So I'm just going to introduce our guest. You will have to forgive me. My voice is a little bit croaky tonight because I've just got a slight cold, so I'll try my best not to croak too much down the microphone. So a little bit about Michelle. Michelle, her background, she is a board-certified holistic health coach. She trained with the Institute for Integrative Nutrition in New York, and she also has a graduate's degree in education and a nutrition certificate from Cadence Health. And she's also done the Detox Mastermind course with Rachel Felden. She's got a long history of understanding health. It was a hobby of hers even right back into her childhood. So really her whole life has been revolved around learning and understanding health and detoxing the body, nutrition, nutrient-dense foods. So she knows a lot about this topic. So without further ado, I'm going to unmute Michelle and get you to come and join us on tonight's webinar. Michelle, can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Matt, and Life Foods for giving me an opportunity to come here tonight and talk with you. I just love Life Foods products, and I'm happy to be part of this with you guys. And I'm also glad to have everybody here listening tonight because I have so much amazing information to share with you. First of all, I want to quickly tell you why I'm doing this webinar tonight. And mainly that's because, there's a lot of hype and myths and misconceptions out there around dieting and finding the perfect program. And, well, let's face it, we live in a world of information. You can Google any subject or buy any book and just be overloaded with information. But for many people, all the diet books and the TV shows and the Googling of information leads us to absolute confusion about what to eat. There's from vegan to paleo, just about everything out there these days. So tonight I'm going to kick off the evening with some groundbreaking information about eating clean and eating for energy, and basically how to never diet again. And first of all, I'd like to start by sharing a story with you so you can learn a little bit more about how I got here. As Matt said, my name is Michelle Yandle, and I'm the founder of The Good Life and a holistic health coach. And I'm here to talk to you today about weight loss, which in my practice is definitely the most common goal that my clients come to me with. And I'm sure many of you can relate, as I can. My own weight loss journey started when I was very young. My parents, they loved me very much, but they decided to show their love by buying me my favorite food, which, for a 5-year-old is mostly McDonald's and KFC and pizza and you name it. And the result was an overweight child. and I was constantly bullied and treated differently by my peers. And by the time I was 16, I'd been on more diets than I can remember, from Weight Watchers to Jenny Craig to Richard Simmons, which was pretty much my favorite of lot, and had a really unhealthy relationship with food. I was constantly counting calories, carbs, fat, you name it, and I struggled that way for many years. But today, I'm not this person anymore. I am educated about the foods that work for my body. And, that happened when I became a health coach and started to create programs that work for all body types and use, the key steps that I'm going to share with you tonight. Today, I live in an undiet sort of world, and I help my clients in my practice to do the same. So, are you confused about what to eat and what not to eat? And do you want to have more energy and feel more in control and lose weight? Well, then you're in the right place, because in tonight's workshop, we're going to discover the 10 keys to healthy weight loss, and you'll learn things like why what you're eating could actually be the thing that's making you hungry for those foods that we know we shouldn't have, and why you might want to take a magnifying glass with you to the grocery store, and how changing one common ingredient can help you get control, lose weight, and boost your energy. And we're going to be looking at the what, the when, and the how to eat, and why you eat the foods you eat, and how to control cravings, and ultimately to lose weight and enjoy a happier, healthier, more energetic life, which I'm sure is something we all strive to have. As Dr. Libby said, I went to one of her seminars the other night, and she says, weight loss is not about losing weight to get healthy. It's about getting healthy to lose weight. So I'm so excited to share this knowledge with you today. So let's get started. All right, so some facts on weight loss. 30% of New Zealanders are trying to lose weight, and another 30% are trying to maintain that weight. 2/3 who lose weight on diets gain it back within 1 year, and 98% of dieters will gain their weight back and more within 2 years. And this is something that I know a lot of my clients struggle with. They do so well, they lose the weight, but then it just comes back and it comes back and it comes back. And, it can be really hard on them and on your self-esteem, but also on your body systems as well. But, when you eat the right foods, you're going to notice lots of changes. You're going to lose the weight. You're going to start to feel satisfied and ditch the cravings. You're going to sleep better and have more energy. You're going to have increased fitness levels. You'll be wanting to go for that walk and that trip to the gym. You'll strengthen your immune system, reduce inflammation, have great skin, and, in particular, I had a client who was overweight but also struggled with really bad acne, and she was really embarrassed about it. And after doing some of my programs and crowding in those whole nutrient-dense foods, her acne went away to the point where she went out one day and somebody asked her what makeup she was wearing, and she said, I'm not wearing any. So that was pretty uplifting for both her and for me. But so what are these right foods, and what steps do we take to make sure that we're eating them? Well, the first step we need to take is to get enough sleep. Think about yourselves. How much sleep do you really get? Do you get 8 hours? Do you get 7 hours? Do you get 6 hours? And what does sleep have to do with healthy eating and weight loss? Well, have you ever noticed that you're hungrier when you're tired? Why do you think that is? Well, our appetites actually increase roughly 25% when we're tired. And what do you crave when you're tired? We crave sugar, we crave caffeine, we crave carbs. And why do you think that is? We're looking for food to give us quick energy because we're dragging. I can definitely relate to that. I used to not be able to get through my day without a cup of coffee several times during the day. And who are these little gremlins, and what do they have to do with it? Well, I want to introduce you to leptin and ghrelin. And leptin and ghrelin are hormones in your body. Leptin says, thank you for feeding me. I'm happy, I'm satisfied, and I love you. Whereas ghrelin, he's the one that's going to say, grr, I'm hungry, I want more, and he's very demanding. Ultimately, we want leptin to be the one in charge, and we can increase leptin and lessen ghrelin by making the right choices. And we're going to cover some of those today. So like I said, the first one is sleep, because being tired is going to increase our ghrelin, and a good night's sleep increases our leptin. So as you can see, it's important to get a good night's sleep if we want to be making the right choices to lose weight and keep it off. And that's something that I help a lot of my clients with. I help them to find the tips and tools and strategies that they need, and they say, really, it's a game changer. So number 2 is to hydrate, because 75% of Kiwis are chronically dehydrated. And, dehydration is going to lead to all sorts of problems, from low energy to headaches, muscle cramps, digestive issues, poor concentration, illness, and ultimately hunger. And we all know what happens when we're hungry. So being dehydrated can lead to cravings for foods that our body actually doesn't need. But you may not even be hungry but dehydrated. So always drink a large glass of water when you get these cravings, just to rule it out. Generally, if you're feeling like you need a pick-me-up, like I said, just take a glass of water, drink that first, even a couple glasses, and then wait a little bit. And if you're still hungry, then go ahead and find something nourishing to eat. Drinking water will also remove toxins, and when our body is toxic, it can be difficult to lose weight because our body perceives that it's in a state of danger and will want to hold on to that fat as a fuel reserve. So when should you drink? Well, you should drink when you first wake up. You need to think of your cells as droopy flowers in a vase without water, and when you refill the water, the flowers come back to life. You haven't had water for about 8 hours, or however many hours you sleep, and your cells are going to need water. So drink a full glass of water before you eat or drink anything else. Plain warm water will actually penetrate the cells the fastest, but if you need to, you can put lemon in it, and that's fine. I make a morning elixir. I put some apple cider vinegar for the liver. I put some fresh lemon juice and some raw manuka honey, and it's just a lovely pick-me-up first thing in the morning, and it hydrates those cells as well. So, stay hydrated throughout the day, because hydration is an ongoing process. If you find water boring, you can add lemon juice, lime, orange, or even watermelon. Your taste buds will adapt over time. And really, this is one of the easiest things that you can do to improve your health and help you to lose weight. So how much water should you drink, and when should you drink it? Well, you've probably heard to drink 8 ounce glasses of water a day, and well, you need about your weight in ounces. So if a person weighs 64 kilos, you're going to need about 64 ounces of water, which is about 8 ounce glasses of water a day. It's a bit of a tongue twister there. However, if you don't weigh 64 kilos, you're going to have to adjust that to fit your unique individual body. And I want you to keep in mind that alcohol and caffeine dehydrate the body, and they're not considered water. So try to reduce or eliminate those substances, but keep in mind that if you do drink them, which is fine, you have a little treat now and again, you're going to need to drink more water. And you should drink about 2 glasses of water for every glass of coffee, soda, or alcohol. And your needs will also vary based on things like exercise levels and the weather, etc. So, moving right along. Number 3, don't diet. Diets and counting calories create a bad relationship between you and your food, because basically they're based on deprivation, and most are not sustainable. Frankly, if you ask me, they just take the joy out of life. And here's a little insider information for you. all calories are not created equal. Gone are the days of counting calories. And not surprisingly, neither are all carbs, fats, and proteins. So counting them can lead to making bad choices. The quality and nutrient density of the food is far more important than the number of calories. And also, food contains information for your cells that either promotes health or disease. And that's where our friends ghrelin and leptin come in. Some food are going to trigger ghrelin, and some foods are going to trigger leptin and making us satisfied. So ultimately, we want to increase that leptin. All right, number 4. Beware fact from fiction. I had to laugh today because I was making some, well, my husband, he's not quite converted, and he did buy a can of Waddy's baked beans with sausages, which is pretty gross. But anyway, the label on it did say that it has 3 servings of vegetables in it. And I just had to laugh because, you know, these companies will say just basically whatever they want on the box or the label. In the commercials, you know, they can say whatever they want. So you really need to be careful because there's so much propaganda out there that is generated by big businesses for profit. And are they concerned about your health or their profits? You know, many of these so-called health foods are going to lead to weight gain, even though they're being labeled as healthy. And the only place really that they have to tell the truth is on the ingredient label. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this shortly. So we need to avoid the hype, and we need to learn the truth. Now, these here obviously are fake labels, but not too far from some of the things that I've seen on labels in the supermarkets. You know, it wasn't long ago that the big tobacco companies, I mean, they had us believing all kinds of things. I mean, what about this? More doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarettes. This was common advertising back then, and people believed it. And then you have this one here. Here's President Reagan from the U.S. giving cigarettes to all his friends. So, you know, really we need to read the labels, and we need to make informed choices. And that brings us to number 5, reading the ingredient label. So we really need to learn how to read the labels. And no, we don't want to just count carbs and how many kilojoules and how many grams of fat and all that sort of thing. We're going to learn to read the label in a different way. First of all, if you can't pronounce it, don't eat it. Some of these foods, to me, you can't even call them foods. I mean, they make our body toxic. They're going to make it very hard for us to lose weight. So a general rule of thumb is that if you can't pronounce the word, if it's some really big strange name or you have no idea what it is, chances are it's not good for our bodies and definitely not going to help us with weight loss. Number 2 is to avoid those health claims we were just talking about. Number 3, avoid more than 5 ingredients. One of the best things you can do for weight loss is really just to keep it real. And, you know, you're looking for products that have less than 5 ingredients because generally they're going to be the ones that are in the most natural state. Single ingredient foods, beans, for example, freeze-dried strawberries, you know, 1 ingredient. And we also want to avoid things like light and low fat, because what happens when these big companies took away the fat from products, they actually added a lot of sugar to them to make up for the flavor. So avoid anything that says light or low fat. I mean, we could do a whole other webinar on why fat is good and why we no longer need to be scared of fat. Maybe we can talk to Matt about that one day. But for now, let's just avoid the light and low fat and leave it at that. And we want to avoid chemicals and preservatives, artificial flavors and colors, and that's for the same reasons. If our body's toxic, it's going to hold on to the fat, and it's going to be very difficult to lose the weight. And we also want to avoid sugar, high fructose corn syrup, trans fats, etc. And the last thing I want you to remember is that ingredients are going to be listed in order of quantity. So chances are, if the first ingredient is sugar, you can guarantee that it is full of the stuff. So definitely want to avoid anything that has sugar in the first 2, 3, 4 ingredients. And there's definitely a lot of products out there with that. So there are some other things that we really need to avoid to eat healthy, get ourselves healthy, and to promote weight loss. And one is high fructose corn syrup, which you can see sometimes in different, different ways of spelling and different ways of labeling it. But sugar is sugar, and high fructose corn syrup is a genetically modified product that depletes us of vitamins and minerals, and it runs down our immune system. It can lead to insulin resistance, which then gets stored as fat, and it contains mercury, and ultimately increases our ghrelin and lowers our leptin. So it makes us hungry, makes us want more and more and more. And another thing we want to look out for is any type of artificial sweeteners. These are neurotoxic carcinogens. Okay, they have been shown to cause cancer. They are toxic chemicals. There are toxic chemicals that are linked to over 90 side effects like headaches, fibromyalgia, anxiety, seizures, cancer. They often contain pesticides, MSG, even chlorine, and they break down into formaldehyde in our bodies. Now that doesn't sound very pleasant at all, and ultimately is going to cause you to crave sugar and make you hungry once again. MSG is something that we see all over the place, and unfortunately it has dozens of different names, so you need to be careful. You need to inform yourselves. Often you'll see it labeled as natural flavors, so be aware. Usually I want to know what that natural flavor is, because if they're not telling you, then it could be something to worry about. They induce cravings. I mean, they did these studies where they were feeding MSG-laden foods to rats, and the rats literally ate themselves to death. They just couldn't stop themselves. You know, you can't just eat one chip. You can't eat, just have one bite of that biscuit. You want to eat the whole thing, and sometimes we want to eat the whole package. And that's often because of the natural flavorings, the MSG, all these things they're putting in it to make it so delicious that we just have to keep eating it. And it increases our ghrelin, it lowers the leptin, makes you hungry, leads to insulin resistance and obesity. The side effects of it include migraines, lethargia, itchy skin, dizziness, respiratory problems, digestive, circulatory, coronary, seizures, ADD, Alzheimer's, bone loss, etc., etc., etc. So let's try to avoid that MSG. Artificial colors are other carcinogens. There's red dye, there's yellow dye. These are synthetic chemicals that have been derived from coal tar. They can contain lead, they can contain arsenic, linked to allergic reactions, ADD, nerve damage, cancer, etc. And preservatives such as EDTA, sodium benzoate, phosphoric acid, one of the most common ingredients in Coca-Cola and fizzy drinks. So I know I've spent a lot of time on this, but I really think it is vital to avoid these products if we want to lose weight, because by consuming them, we're not going to do ourselves or our body any good. And, it's not light and natural and, all these claims as they say it is, it's just not going to help you to lose weight if you're consuming it. So just be aware and be informed. So number 6. Is to get off the sugar roller coaster. If you're like I used to be, you can often feel like you're on a roller coaster through the day. You start the day when you wake up and you have your coffee because you're that tired, and then you've got the 3 p.m. crash, and all the way until that last little chocolate chip cookie before bed, and you have that little voice in your head saying, I just feel like having something sweet. Maybe just one little chocolate cookie, right? Well, it doesn't often happen that way, because sugar is really, it's an addictive, destructive substance. And even eating just a small, teensy little bit, it can create a desire for more and can suddenly, if you were to suddenly quit it, it would cause withdrawal symptoms such as, headaches and mood swings and cravings and fatigue. On average, the average Kiwi consumes 28 teaspoons of sugar a day. That is so easily done in today's marketplace. It's everywhere. I was, again, going back to my husband's horrible baked beans that he bought. The second ingredient was sugar, tomatoes and sugar. It was laden with sugar. It's hidden in everything, so we really need to be careful because, it creates inflammation in the body and runs down the immune system. And when I speak of inflammation, in plain and simple terms, I'm talking about weight gain. In the story Sweet and Vicious, Is Sugar Toxic?, which was in the New York Times Magazine in April 2011, the president of the Memorial Sloan Kettering Company was quoted as saying that he had eliminated refined sugar from his diet. He said, ultimately, it's something that I can do to decrease my risk of cancer. It's important to understand that everything we put in our body either promotes health or disease. It's either going to go one way or the other. And sugar is one of these things that's going to promote disease. It's going to promote weight gain. It's going to promote, all things bad that we can do to our bodies. So while it's okay to have sweet treats, it's okay to have something that's been sweetened with fruit or with honey now and then, or making a beautiful chocolate avocado pudding. Life Foods has got some great recipes. It's okay to have those things, but we do need to be careful that we're not consuming too much. And like I say, it's scary because there's products out there like these cereals that are called Smart Start, and you look at the labels. You've got sugar as the third ingredient. You've got it again here, again there. You've got it listed as molasses, as honey, as sugar, as corn syrup, as honey, high fructose corn syrup. It's just laden with sugar. It's there how many times? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. And this is a Smart Start healthy cereal, supposedly healthy cereal. And, if you add all those up, it could easily be the first or second ingredient. Now, do you really think that's a Smart Start? Oh, I definitely don't. I think we can do much better in the morning by following my next step here. And that is to watch our pH balance. Because, cancer and most diseases cannot exist in an alkaline body. But also, when our body is acidic, it's very difficult to lose weight. Because our bodies will not let go of the excess weight, because your body's clever and it's going to store the fat thinking that it's in a state of distress. What we want is our body to be alkaline instead of acidic, so that we can avoid disease and lose weight. So we need to eat alkaline foods versus acidic. And eating alkaline foods, it's going to do so much good for our body. It's going to support weight loss through several ways. And one way is by it purifying the body of toxins, boosting our immune function, preventing disease. It slows the aging process, which is a plus, and reduces inflammation, but also increases our energy so that we're going to have, again, more energy to go for those walks and go to the gym, go for a run and play with our children, and it can also increase our longevity. And the pH balance of foods is really around 7.35, and we want our bodies to be about that same level. And we really want to support it by eating more alkaline foods. And I'll just show you a chart here that gives you an example. While there's many more alkaline foods, this kind of gives you a good example. So we've got over here our alkaline foods being leafy greens, veggies, superfoods, and those whole grains, and fruit, water, green teas, herbal teas. basically everything that we've been told that we need to eat more of. Now, the acidic foods are going to be your sugar, your artificial sweeteners, processed and chemical-laden food, meat and dairy, alcohol, and coffee. Whoops, sorry about that. So here's some more examples here of some alkaline versus acidic foods. You know, we have our nuts and our oranges, chickpeas, bananas. Again, those single ingredient foods that are really going to make us well and help to keep the weight down. You know, these are whole, real, nutrient-dense, unprocessed, one ingredient foods. All right, which, you know, brings me to number 8, and that is to eat real food. You know, we can eat as much as we want. I don't worry about, you know, counting calories. I don't worry about how much I'm eating. I eat when I'm hungry and I stop when I'm full. But I try my hardest to always eat real food to keep my weight off. You know, those years of struggling with the counting of the carbs and can I eat this? Is this bad? Is this good? When it comes from the earth, I know that it's good. I know it's a good food. I no longer need to question myself. And that's what I help my clients to do too, is just to increase this whole beautiful, real food. You know, I heard a great quote from Jamie Oliver the other day, and it said, real food doesn't have ingredients. It is an ingredient. And eating real, whole, nutrient-dense, unprocessed foods can be one of the most important things that we do for our health and weight loss. Always look for one ingredient foods. You know, our body, it's designed to heal itself, and it can if we feed it what it needs and avoid toxins. A toxic body, I can't say this enough, a toxic body cannot release excess weight. We need to remove toxins through clean eating so that that stubborn weight can shift and we can feel great. You know, I help my clients learn how to nourish their bodies, their mind, and their soul. And I've developed several clean eating and programs that support healthy weight loss by doing just that, by crowding in the whole foods. One of my clients came to me with a very, very toxic body. She was eating lots of processed foods. She was severely overweight. She would have been considered obese. And she lost all motivation to lose it. And by slowly but surely crowding in real whole foods, including superfoods, you know, to add that nutrient density, she was able to remove the toxins from her body and lose over 20 kilos in only 6 months. And the best part is that she said she never felt deprived. Eating healthy whole food doesn't have to be bland. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. You know, like I've mentioned before, beautiful chia puddings and avocado puddings, they're nutrient dense, they're whole, they're delicious. And I love them. I'm a bit of a foodie. I would never deprive myself to eat healthy. And now number 9 is one of the most important to me. And number 9 is ultimately revolves around a concept that we're not often told about when it comes to weight loss. And I just want to talk a little bit about it. So number 9 involves primary food balance. So our primary foods, I'll tell you a little bit more about what those are in a moment, but by checking in on our primary foods, that's a crucial and often overlooked component to weight loss. I can't emphasize it enough how crucial it is. So I want you to take a look at this wheel, and in it we've got all the major areas of our life that need to be in balance to be happy and to be healthy. We've got joy, relationships, finances, health, physical activity, creativity, social life, home cooking, career, and education. And I want you to think about your own life. Is your circle balanced? Do you ever find yourself running to the cookie jar for what I call chocolate chip Valium? You know, that might indicate an imbalance in your primary food. Primary food is what prevents an ordinary person who knows how to eat from eating right from doing it. I mean, we all know we should eat more vegetables. We all know we need to get more exercise. But there is something that is preventing us from doing that, and that is often an imbalance in our primary food. Primary food is nourishment. That isn't food at all. It's what's good for your soul. So we need to get in touch with what you're craving that's not food and learn other ways to nourish yourself without food. So think back of what your own circle would look like. Consider whether there is any imbalances in your primary food and have a starting point for determining where you may wish to spend more time and energy to create balance and joy in your life. Nourishing yourself with primary food is, again, so crucial if you want to lose weight and feel great. And you really need to remember to take it one step at a time. And I can't emphasize that enough. It's about small, sustainable steps over time rather than a all or nothing, because often all or nothing is either that. It's either all or nothing. And there's where that yo-yo diet comes in. So these small steps towards, looking at our primary foods, looking at that balance, and slowly making changes in our lives that's going to help us to feel more complete and happy and whole, so that we don't need to fill that void with the foods that don't serve us. And last but not least, get support, get some help, get some family, get some friends, get some people on board. Turn that what into how with support. Energy, cravings, excess weight, they usually go hand in hand. So if you wish you could push a button and have the body and the energy that you want, and that you once and for all, and you'd like to get personal support to make it happen, then reach out for that support. I've been so lucky in my practice to witness transformations right before my eyes. My clients are losing weight, gaining energy and confidence, all while enjoying simple meals, delicious whole foods. I love what I do, and I'm so happy to support you on your journey to ultimate health. So just to summarize, I've got 10 keys to weight loss. So number one is to sleep. Make sure that you're getting a good night's sleep. Hydrate, drinking water, having a couple glasses of water with every dehydrating drink you have, coffee, wine, etc. Try to get away from that diet mentality. That's number 3. And number 4, pay attention to the ingredients and not so much the the hype and the labeling on packages. And number 5 is learning how to read the ingredients, looking for whole foods, not too many ingredients, not too many foreign words that you just can't pronounce. And number 6, getting off the sugar roller coaster. Avoiding sugar as much as possible so that we can have more balance and have a more even energy throughout our day. Number 7 is to remember to crowd in those alkaline foods versus acidic foods like processed foods and sugar. Number 8, eat real food. Those one ingredient foods are just so important. And number 9 is the primary food and the life balance. We do need to take care of ourselves. I often use the analogy of an airplane where, when those oxygen masks fall down, what do they tell you to do? They tell you to put it on you first before you put it on somebody else. And that's often something that we neglect to do in our real lives. We're so busy taking care of everybody else that we often neglect to take care of ourselves. And, if you want to lose weight, you've got to come first. You deserve it. So getting support, take care of yourself, and get yourselves on the right track. I do have, a few programs. I do Kickstart programs and clean eating courses and one-to-one coaching and workshops. So if you do want some extra support, you can check me out at the www.thegoodlifehealth.com. And I hope you enjoyed tonight's information, and I will hand it back to Matt in case there are any questions tonight.
Great.
And thank you very much.
Thanks, Michelle. I appreciate you taking us through that. I found that really helpful. I enjoyed listening to you there, and there's definitely a few things that I picked up for myself that I should be doing a little bit more in my own life. So I appreciate you sharing that. It's great, and it's good to understand, I guess, a more holistic approach to weight loss, and obviously your clients are getting good results, which is also very encouraging. So. If anyone wants to ask questions, just go ahead right now in the chat box. I won't necessarily read out your full name if some of you people might be a little reluctant to ask questions if you're shy on a topic like this. So I understand that completely. So just go ahead if you want to ask anything to do with what we talked about tonight, and I'll read that out right now. So you just got to go to the little question box and type away and submit that, and that'll come through. I've got one question that's come in. This is a really good question. Justine has asked this one, and she said, how can we test our bodies for pH? How can we know if our internal environment, I guess, is alkaline or acidic? How are we tracking? So what's your answer to that, Michelle?
Yeah, really good question. So you can get it easily tested by purchasing some what they're called little pH strips, and you can buy them usually from health food stores, whole food stores. Naturopaths will often have them. And what you do is actually in the morning you're going to wee on it. That's really the best way to figure it out, and they're going to come with a color code to tell you exactly what your pH level is, and to do that for several days so you can sort of get an average of what your pH is over time, and that's really the best way to do it, and it's so simple. I mean, you can use your saliva as well, and that will give you a fairly accurate reading, but weeing on it is really the best way to do it. But yes, and like I said, you can get that just at any health food stores or any naturopaths. I mean, you can order them on Trade Me, and I have done it, but I can't guarantee the effectiveness of the ones that you get online. But there is that option as well.
Right. Yeah. Good. I've actually ordered them on Trade Me as well myself before, but I was weary. Yeah. I was weary about them because I put them in a cup of coffee to test it, and it came out alkaline, and I was I wasn't too sure about that. But yeah, I think you can find it at naturopaths and pharmacies, just those pH strips. Another question is around a very common, I guess, method for losing weight that people use is not eating carb, or just sort of anti-carbs, and especially not eating carbs at nighttime. A lot of people talk about that. So what's your take on that one, just to sort of, I guess, address it, because it's a common thing?
That's a really good question, and it is a really common one. And ultimately, it boils down to what we call bio-individuality. And what that means is what works for one person is not going to work for somebody else. And there are lots of people out there that benefit extremely well from cutting out grains from their diets and cutting out refined carbohydrates and gluten and the rest. And there are other people that can eat those and be absolutely fine. I do recommend to many of my clients, when they're on a weight loss program with me, is that the first thing we do is we cut back on the gluten and the wheat products. We'll often keep in grains such as quinoa, amaranth, and millet because they're protein rich. They're actually seeds, and they're gluten-free. So we usually keep those in, but there are paleo diets that omit the quinoa and grains altogether. They also omit legumes. But then at the same time, there are people that are living to over 100 years old that, base their longevity on diets that are rich in whole grains and fruit and veg. So, carbohydrates, it really depends what type, but it also depends on the person. And the only way to really find out is, to omit them from your diet for maybe 7 days, do an elimination diet. Like my Clean Eating Kickstart is based on an elimination diet. We cut out grains, and then you reintroduce them. And by reintroducing them, you can really see what kind of effect they have on your mood. You'll feel bloated or get all kinds of negative symptoms. So really you have to figure it out for yourself, because these diet crazes out there, paleo works for lots of people, vegan works for lots of people, raw works for lots of people, but they don't all work for everybody. So you need to listen to your body, and you need to really figure out what's best for you.
Right, great, makes sense. Another question is around supplementation. It's a big industry, especially weight loss supplements. I know it's a big dollar industry. What is your opinion on supplementing, whether it be maybe not only weight loss supplements, but any form of supplement? Is there anything that's good, or is it all bad, or what's your take on it?
Oh gosh, I haven't tried any of those weight loss supplements, so I can't give you too much of an opinion on those. I do, in regards to supplements though, in general, as far as getting your nutrients through supplements, I will tell you that most supplements that come from supermarkets and that are on that large scale are not going to do very much good for your body, because they're basically made in a laboratory. They're not real food, they're not real nutrients, and your body is just not going to know what to do with them. And what I do recommend is increasing things like superfoods, like honestly, like life foods. I know it sounds like I'm trying to sell now, but life foods and superfoods in general are very nutrient dense. Cacao, for example, having heaps of iron and magnesium. There are green drink products that are out there, like Good Green stuff and other products, and they are wonderful because they are vitamins and minerals that are coming from a plant source. So again, we want to make sure we're having supplements that are from a plant source and not from a factory. So that's the main thing I look for with supplements. Like I say, I can't give you a real opinion on some of the weight loss supplements, but if it comes from a real food, maybe it's some guarana veg fruit or something of some sort, and if it's a whole food and it helps you lose weight, then great, power to it. But I would watch out for anything that's synthetic. And it's not going to be a miracle pill. You would have to eat properly with that supplement for it to work as well. And it has to be something that you're going to be willing to take for a long time, because ultimately we want it to be a lifestyle choice and not just a quick fix.
Yeah,
does
absolutely.
That make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree completely with you. Here's another question's come in here. What is your take on protein powders for women who weight train?
Again, I think that protein powders are fine as long as they're plant-based, and there's lots of protein powders out there. I take a protein powder in my smoothies, and it's a pea protein, and I think that that's absolutely fine. It's alkaline, and I do think that protein is very important for everybody and not just trainers. And there are also protein sources like chia seeds, spirulina, bee pollen. You can use nut butters and that sort of thing, and add those as well. But if a protein powder comes from a natural source, then absolutely go for it. That's fine. It's just, again, going back to real food.
Right, makes sense. A follow-up question from the one earlier is around when kicking a bad, this is the question, when kicking a bad caffeine habit, is it best to go cold turkey? What sort of advice have you got for somebody that's...
That's a tough one, because I went cold turkey, or cold coffee, or whatever you want to call it, when I quit coffee. And for me, it was difficult. I compared it to, this sounds horrible, but I compared it to being Lindsay Lohan in rehab. I just felt awful for about 3 or 4 days. But it worked, and I did cut the habit, and now I don't depend on it. And if you have the willpower and determination to do that, then that's fine. I did it as part of a juice fast. which was also quite difficult, but you know, I don't necessarily recommend it that way. But there are plenty of coffee alternatives out there that are actually quite nice. Like Ticino is one that you can find around, and I find that tastes quite similar to coffee, and I say that because I was drinking it right around that time when I was really missing coffee. And you can do half and half. They recommend doing like half and half of the Ticino or whatever coffee product you use, and then gradually lessening the coffee. And that might be a much gentler way to do it than the way I did. So it's really about what works for you.
Great. Yeah, hopefully that encourages you. If there's any more questions, fire them in now. Otherwise, we'll wrap up this webinar. So just while we're waiting, I just want to encourage people, if you're trying to lose weight. I think what we've learned tonight from Michelle is very, very encouraging, especially that story you told me of your client, that particular client who was obese and lost 20 kilos in the space of 6 months or whatever you said it was, who said that she didn't have deprivation. She didn't have to deny herself so much and, I guess, feel hungry, but it still works. So I think it gives people hope, because I think a lot of people feel a little bit desperate or hopeless when they're overweight and don't like the idea of dieting, because it is, it's quite a hard thing to face. So I think it's really encouraging. So I appreciate you sharing that with us tonight, and the rest of what you did.
My pleasure. I enjoy it.
Great. Well, that's it for the questions. So we'll leave it at that for tonight. I appreciate everyone joining us this evening on this topic of weight loss. So Michelle, what's your website again? We'll just remind people if they want to head over there and hear more about yourself. Maybe you could just show it on the screen or read it out as well.
Yeah, it's right here. It's www.thegoodlifehealth.com. Though I will warn people that tonight, of all nights, my web designer is going through some stuff on there, so it may not work tonight. But I do have a Facebook page too, The Good Life, which you can get recipes. I try to post them 2 or 3 times a week. Again, all whole foods and healthy and delicious and all that good stuff. So have a search for me on Facebook in the meantime while my website is under maintenance. But there it is, and it should be up and running tomorrow.
Great. Okay, fantastic. I'm sure people will go and check that out. So again, thank you, Michelle, and thanks everyone for joining us. This is a presentation brought to you from Life Foods, lifefoods.co.nz. We're doing an initiative to help facilitate education for our customers on a variety of different topics. So we want to hear from you. If there's any topics that you'd like us to present on, just comment on the Facebook page and just let us know. And we'll go ahead and try our best to sort of get those together for you, because we want to make these an ongoing thing, just to provide a service to our customers for no cost whatsoever. So again, thanks, Michelle, and thanks, everybody. That's all for tonight's webinar. Until next time, thanks so much for joining us. Bye for now.